Up next, we're celebrating Yoko Ono as she approaches her 93rd birthday. With new exhibitions and Beatles films bringing her back into the spotlight, we're joined by an author exploring her life, impact, and music, plus a preview of a brand new book on Yoko's groundbreaking sound.
We're totally booked.
Rock and roll!
Well, I think I'll leave you to your reading.
Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Rock and roller!
We are totally booked.
Welcome back to Booked on Rock, the podcast for those about to read and rock. I'm Eric Senich. We have a returning guest to the show. She is Madeline Bocaro, author of the biography In Your Mind, The Infinite Universe of Yoko Ono. And she's got a updated version of that book out. Also got some exciting news about a new Yoko book that will be coming out soon. Madeline, welcome back to the show. Good to see you again.
Thank you so much.
Yoko's 93rd birthday coming up, right? February 18th.
Yeah.
And she's back in the spotlight again. Art world, the Beatles / film world. Want to get into all that. But let's start with your book, In Your Mind, The Infinite Universe of Yoko Ono, which came out in 2021. And I had you on for that. There is now a new expanded ebook out. So tell us about that.
People have been begging me to do the ebook, so I finally did it. And over the course of 4 years since the other one came out, I've added a lot more information throughout and in the hardcover as well. So this is the hardcover, which you could only get exclusively through me at conceptualbooks.com. And it's 558 pages, and it's everything you ever need to know: artwork, films, music, philosophy, ancestry, upbringing, and it's all super, super interesting. It's amazing, her life. It's
now that is the updated edition you're holding there.
Yes, it's the hardcover.
So it's hardcover and
ebook.
Ebook.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, and people can listen to the episode where you talked about the original version of the book. That's episode 109. Talk about your history with Yoko. You're a longtime fan. You were pen pals with Yoko.
Yes. I saw a picture of her in a magazine when I was 10 years old. And it was, she was in front of her film Bottoms, which is Naked Behinds, kind of in close up. And I thought, wow, this is really kooky. An adult is doing something so strange. I love this. And she looked really sly in the picture. And I just always kept it because I just wanted to know who she was. And I heard she was Japanese. And then about a year later, I hear she's with John Lennon. I get the White Album, and, she's supposedly, singing on there. And so it was great. I could follow them every day in the news, whatever they were doing. And it was really every day something else, a new single, a new album, a new, stunt, a publicity thing, bed-ins for peace and planting acorns and concerts. It was just one thing after another, and tons of interviews. And I saved all of those. I saved every article I could find, every interview. And eventually, when I started writing about her, those were really helpful to have. And then I gathered all my articles together and realized I could possibly have a book here. And it took a couple of years to really put it together and flesh it out.
What was it about Yoko that you connected with?
Just that she was so unique. I'm an only child, and I could sense her loneliness and she had a horrible childhood. So I could see a bit of her pain, but she was always very whimsical about, the way she portrayed her work, always asking you to participate in it. And there was always some element of healing in it. So I always gravitated toward that.
Much of what's been documented regarding Yoko are the years she's been with John, but your book covers her entire life. So you mentioned childhood. Where is Yoko from? What were her childhood and teen years like?
Well, she was born in Japan, 1933. And she was 12 years old when America bombed Tokyo, where she was living with her parents. And her and her younger siblings were sent to a farmhouse in the suburbs for shelter. And her mother didn't realize how dilapidated this farmhouse was when she arranged for them to go there. And it was really a mess, and there was nothing around. They were given kimonos and jewelry to trade for food, but the people in the area were all pretty much peasants and wouldn't trade with them. Everybody was hoarding food. It was a horrible situation. She saw a family go into the woods to eat poisoned mushrooms and they died. And she was just trying to keep her brother and sister happy and fed, and it was very, very hard. And this traumatized her. Her whole life, she was, trying to imagine things. I mean, in the farmhouse, her brother was hungry, and she said, "Well, what would you want to eat?" And he said, "Pizza." So she said, "Okay, imagine the ice cream, imagine the pizza," and he became happy. And she said, "Wow, it's amazing what you can do in your mind." So that was the basis of all her work.
Wow. What serious relationships did she have prior to John?
She had a first husband who was also Japanese, Toshi Ichiyanagi, and he was a composer. And he was a colleague of John Cage. And she actually toured Japan with him and John Cage and Mayuzumi and participated in their performances. But she wasn't happy doing that because she really wanted to do her own art. And they grew apart, and she met an entrepreneur from America, Tony Cox. He actually sought her out because he had heard about her work, and he found her in Japan in a hospital. She had been admitted because she was very, very depressed. She had tried to commit suicide, actually. And he went over there and got her out of the hospital and became her promoter and husband. And they did some work in Japan, and they came to New York and did a lot of work there. And then they went to London, and that's when everything happens with John Lennon.
Yes, take us back to that day when they met.
It was November 1966, and she was getting her exhibition ready in the basement of Indica Gallery, which is owned by John Dunbar. And it was it was all white, and everything was really strange. There was a ladder going up to the ceiling with a magnifying glass hanging from it. And when John climbed the ladder and he looked through the glass, he saw the tiny little letters that said yes. And that was so encouraging to him because he was very pessimistic about art and the whole scene. And he just really fell in love with all her ideas and her work. And that's when they really clicked.
Yeah, they clicked. He was married to Cynthia at the time.
They were both married with small children at the time, so they were very hesitant to delve into a relationship.
One of the biggest narratives around Yoko Ono is her relationship with the Beatles through her relationship with John. What are the biggest misconceptions about her role in that story? What does history actually show?
History shows, and the Beatles have actually stated that, they were on the verge of breaking up before she entered the picture, and there were so many tensions due to managerial problems, George wanting to put out his own songs. He had a triple album pretty much ready to go, All Things Must Pass, and he was feeling stifled in the group. Everybody was upset except maybe Paul. Paul wanted to continue. But, she just came along at that time. But actually, she didn't want the Beatles to break up. When John told her he was leaving the Beatles, he actually turned to her and said, "Okay, now it's just you and me." And she was devastated. She's like, "Well, wait a minute. What's he going to do what's he going to be preoccupied with while I'm doing my work?" Because she was first and foremost an artist. And she didn't know they were going to collaborate so well and hit the ground running, but they did, and everything was okay. But, she was really nervous there.
And that goes against the narrative that people thought that she was looking to break up the Beatles.
Yeah. And in the book, I have quotes from hundreds of quotes, mostly from her, but a lot from, John, Paul, people that worked with them, Ringo even, and just musicians who worked with her and people who knew her. And they all weave the story, and it's quotes from the time. So it's not anything people are saying in hindsight and speculating. It's all, it's how the whole story happened.
How did she get along with the rest of the members of the band, Ringo, Paul, and George?
In the beginning, there's an audio tape of her saying, Paul and John are so, so close. And Paul's been very respectful to me. He's almost like a brother. It was really, really nice, like in the beginning. And then, when John brought her into the studio, there was some animosity because nobody had really brought their others into the studio. But Ringo was always very cool with her. He loves her. They all have that peace and love vibe going, and he visits her whenever he's in New York, and Ringo was always cool. And it was just really Paul that had a big problem, and George, and but Paul came around later and said, "Look, if he really loves this woman, I'm not going to fight it anymore." So that was that.
What are the insights or discoveries from the expanded ebook edition that stand out?
Well, every chapter has something additional, like, oh, this quote, she said this about this, and I talk about that. So I would, insert all those. But um, a little bit of it is that I've since spoken to her daughter who had been missing for so long, and she gave me a little bit more insight and, more quotes from Sean, her son, who's really supporting the book. He loves it. And, just a lot of details, a lot more details.
Yeah. Tell us about the daughter. Is that from her first marriage?
Yeah, the daughter from her first marriage, who her husband had absconded with the child because it turns out, the husband and child were very, very close. He had raised her while Yoko was basically doing all the work, her art. And just like, when she was with John, he raised their son Sean while Yoko did the business. Um, but it didn't mean Yoko didn't love the child. She did. And he, the husband, was intimidated by the relationship with John. And he thought that eventually they would take the daughter and, he wouldn't be able to see her again. So he left with her and they ended up, nobody knew this until recently, that they ended up inside of a cult where he was kind of hiding. And
Wow.
yeah, it's her life story is just so insane. Yeah, and then they became disillusioned with that and they left and he still hid the child because he was under this delusion that Yoko was still going to sue him or arrest him if they became public. And but soon as the daughter was old enough and was having her first child, she said, I have to contact my mother. And she did. And it was in the 90s. And then they've since become very, very close again.
Okay, very close. What's her name?
Kyoko.
Kyoko. Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's right. Isn't in one of John's songs he
Yoko
says
song.
that?
It's
Oh,
Don't
Yoko
Mind
song.
Yoko.
Right. Yes.
It's intense.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's a good transition into the upcoming book. You have a new book coming out, which is exclusively about Yoko's music. Talk about what's in that book and when can we expect to see that come out?
The biography has chapters about every album and every song, pretty much, in detail. But I was thinking about it and I wanted to speak with musicians and people who were influenced by her as well and bands that have covered her work. So this is going to be, listen, in the musical universe of Yoko Ono. It's going to be exclusively about her music. And I'm working on it, and it'll be about a year or so when this comes out.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah. Who does that artwork for the cover?
So yeah, the cover of this book is by an Australian artist, Kat McInnes, and she's really great. She does whimsical. It was a greeting card. I found it online, and I asked her if she would lend it to me for the cover, and she was gracious enough. And she does all kinds of. She has a website, and she has gift wrapping paper and cards that she designs. And then I asked her to make like a nighttime version for my music book, and she made me this one.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
Yeah,
So,
isn't it lovely? I love it.
what are the musicians that you've? Who are the musicians that you spoke with?
Jim Keltner, actually, Jim Keltner, the drummer of
Yes.
hundreds of classic records. I'm asking each one of them also what's their favorite song by Yoko. So his answer to me was so great. He said, I've been on albums by hundreds of people and hundreds of bands, and I've played on hundreds of songs, but my favorite album, not just song, not just of Yoko's, but of all time, is Listen, the Snow is Falling. So I love that. It's just this really beautiful, delicate song, and I'm so happy that he appreciates it so much.
What album is that off of?
It's a single. It's the B-side of Happy Christmas War is Over.
Okay.
It's this beautiful song. It's so gorgeous.
Yeah, Jim Keltner, I don't know if there's been a documentary on him, but there should be. But then again, he's a very humble guy because at the story I always think of the Traveling Wilburys, he's on that album. I know he's on the first one. I think he's on the second too, but he didn't want, they said, well, you can become a Wilbury. We'll give you a name. He's like, no, I'm good.
Jim Wilbury.
I'll stick in the background. You guys can get the spotlight. Yeah. So that's cool. Jim Keltner, a lot of people that worked with Yoko in the studio.
Yeah, with people that worked with her, toured with her, and there's so many now cover albums, complete cover albums of just Yoko's songs. So that's gonna be great. Like David Byrne is on one of them, and of course Elvis Costello covered Walking on Thin Ice a while ago. Harry Nilsson did some of her songs. And if I don't interview them myself, I have quotes from if they're deceased, let's say like Harry Nilsson, I have quotes from him talking about those songs that he loved so much of hers that he covered. And, we've got the B-52s were influenced by her, Sonic Youth, Thurston Moore.
Wow. Now, Walking on Thin Ice is her biggest commercial success?
Yeah, it was number one. It came out as a single in 1981, 2 months after John was killed. He was carrying a tape of that song on him when he passed away, and he had been playing it over and over and over the night before. And that song there's an Ono box that came out. It was a compilation, a first CD compilation of all of her work, and the version of it on there, they left the tape running at the end, and John says, "I think you just cut your first number one, Yoko." And then in 2003, that became a reality because it became number one on these dance charts of remixes that she put out, and again in 2013.
Yeah, many people overlook Yoko's music. What makes her musical catalog so important historically, in your opinion?
I think it runs the gamut. There's the avant-garde stuff, and there's the beautiful ballads and heartbreaking, delicate songs, and the wild freakouts. And she's got like some of the most amazing musicians in the world on those things. She's got Eric Clapton, Ringo, John. It's just amazing. Jim Keltner. So there's something for everyone if people would just realize that she does more than the abrasive stuff.
Right. And I'm curious as to in what way she helped shape experimental or avant-garde music. The artists that came after her that were inspired by her. What are your thoughts on that? She must have some younger artists who are fans.
Yeah, I mean, the guys in Red Cross love her, and they did actually a little tribute as the Tater Tots. They covered Yoko's songs, and there's like Shonen Knife from Japan. As I said, Sonic Youth, but there are other, they're bubbling up everywhere. They're just bands that always cite her. Death Cab for Cutie used one of her songs as an intro to their single, and
It's a great band.
L7. I'm just going to dive really deep into it. And then there's ones that she collaborated with as well. So
she challenged traditional ideas about what music could be. With that said, which of her albums do you think maybe deserves a reappraisal by critics, by fans, that maybe was overlooked?
I think the major one is the double album, Approximately Infinite Universe. There's all kinds of songs on there, and those are the ones that people say, "Oh, I didn't know she did things like this." Those are great. And then the one after that, Feeling the Space. But her most recent two albums, there's Between My Head and the Sky and Take Me to the Land of Hell. And those are really fantastic too. They have a wide variety.
How many total albums did she release? Studio albums?
Oh my goodness. I have to really count it, but
look it up.
At one time, yeah, look at it.
It's pretty prolific from what I recall.
More than John had done, because she put out a couple of doubles and he was still doing single records.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'll look it up here. While I do that, you mentioned artists who are fans of her. What about her? Who was she a fan of? What bands did she follow? Any ones that would be surprising?
Well, it's funny. She was born in 1933. So it's not like she had a turntable growing up and posters on her walls and went to concerts. There was no rock and roll until she was over 20.
Sure.
And she was immersed in the culture of Japan. kabuki theater, you know, music accompanied by a koto, you know, that kind of shrill enka music. Um, and that's where she gets a lot of her tonality and her vocals is from Japanese vocalists. But she listens to everything, you know, tribal, African, folk. But it wasn't until John started playing her traditional rock and roll and Irish folk songs that she started appreciating
Yeah.
that kind of music.
He opened her mind and she opened his mind.
Yeah, he gave her a beat and reined her in a little bit, and she let him open up and go crazy. So that's great.
14 studio albums, 8 collaborative albums, 40 singles. Do you think her music is better appreciated now than it was when it first came out?
Yeah, I mean, the people that appreciated it when it first came out loved it so much. So our passion equals, you know, how many people like it now. But yeah, I mean, back then, when I would ask her or say, I love this song, she'd go, you know that? You know, she'd be surprised because to her, you know, people didn't really talk about it.
Get every episode of Booked on Rock commercial free by grabbing a backstage pass on Patreon. It's just $5 a month and a great way to support the show. Check the show notes for the link or visit bookedonrock.com to sign up. Our guest is author and journalist Madeline Bocaro. Her book, In Your Mind, The Infinite Universe of Yoko Ono, now available as an expanded ebook, also the hardcover, and we'll put a link in the show notes where people can go to get that. We got a new book coming, which covers Yoko's music. She's currently in the spotlight again with major art exhibitions. So tell us about these.
So right now there's one at the MCA in Chicago. It's called Music of the Mind, and it's been traveling. It was at the Tate Modern. It's going to LA next, I believe. But yeah, it's been in Germany, and it's just incredible. It's a huge retrospective. And there was one in New York in 2015, is basically the same with added objects and things. But you walk through these white spaces and interact with the art, and people are loving it. Millions of people are going through these spaces every day. And it's just amazing that people are not just aware now of who she is, but, you know, what the meaning behind her art. And I said that, like, if you go and see a Van Gogh exhibition or an expressionist or surrealist exhibition, you don't come out going, wow, that was for me, that involved me, and that was kind of healing, and I learned something valuable. So that's what you get from her work.
Yeah. How would you describe her style? Do you have any of her art behind you there? I'm looking.
Actually, I do. That's it's called Sky Puddle, and it's a piece that's just supposed to be on the floor, and it just reflects the sky. A lot of her stuff is about the sky. I also have a sky jigsaw puzzle piece, a big one there of lucite. And just a lot of things, you know, these are very few of the things that you can actually own and hold, because most of it is imaginary or intangible.
If someone only knows her through Beatles history, what's the first thing you'd want them to understand about her as an artist?
As an artist, everything she's showing is very simplistic and very pure, but there's deep meaning behind each thing. And it doesn't take long to really sit and understand it. And if you want to, my book explains most of it. And it's not, once you see what it's about, you say, wow, I didn't realize. There's a postcard that's called A Hole to See the Sky Through. And, you know, people just think, oh, this is kooky. It's a hole you can look up. But what it represents is what I was saying, in that farmhouse that was dilapidated, and she's there hungry with her siblings. There was a hole in the roof, and that was the only positive vision she had of the sky in the midst of this war. So she just does something simple like that and doesn't really explain it. But if you connect the dots, you see what it's really about.
Well, that answers my question, because I wonder why her work resonates so strongly with modern audiences today. So she challenges you, but not to the point you're going to get it if you.
Yeah, it's a slight challenge, but she's very humorous. she's like a Zen master with like the wonderment of a child still, she's wise, she's smart, she's funny, she's brilliant. And that's what John loved about her. And listen, John was her biggest fan. Her son Sean is her biggest fan now. And I just want to back them up and show people what she did.
Well, another facet of her that I think I respect the most would be just her emotional courage, to have to go through what she went through, during that whole period, get people, pointing the finger at her, and she dealt with a lot. And,
and not just that, the war could be horrible enough.
Sure.
And then people just lying about her in the press and attacking her, people pulling her hair, yelling at John to leave her. And then, you think John's death would be the worst of everything, but several, people who were employed by her were stealing from her, kidnapping threats, death threats. She was living a nightmare after he died, not just because he was gone, but it was just a nightmare all around.
Sam Mendes is directing these 4 films. It's a biopic series on the Beatles. Sony Pictures is doing it, and each movie focuses on a different band member's perspective. It's titled The Beatles, a foreign film cinematic event, scheduled for simultaneous theatrical release in April of 2028. So cast to play the role of Yoko is Anna Sawai. I think I can pronounce that right. She's playing Yoko. She's gained acclaim. I looked her up. She's gained acclaim for her role as Lady Mariko in the FX series Shogun. So what are your thoughts on their choosing her to play Yoko?
I think she looks very beautiful. And actually her hair is very similar to Yoko's, the way it waves.
I saw it. Yeah.
Funny.
What are you hoping the filmmakers get right about her portrayal?
Mainly the voice, because there's no accent like Yoko's. It's going to take that girl so much studying, because it's kind of like the accent is Japanese and Liverpudlian because of hanging with John so much. It's just the weirdest accent, but it's such a cool voice.
Yeah. What aspect of her life do you feel is still the most overlooked?
Her wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and that's what's gotten her through all the difficult times. She does this. Yeah. She has that wisdom.
She has wisdom. She was also very spiritual. She always also consulted psychics and astrologers. And in a way, she seemed to bog her life down with all of that. She really ran her life according to astrological charts and all that. And we'll never know if things would have been worse if she didn't do that. Like, you don't know, but she seemed to believe in all of that, or need to believe in something other than religion or a God. She just needed a power to believe in.
What do you think ultimately she would want her artistic legacy to be?
She's always very flippant and just says, look, I had a good life. Don't worry about me, So I don't know. I mean, I think she really would want people to understand her work. And I think she really left it open-ended. She left it unfinished. She wants you to finish it and take away from what it means to you. But I think what it meant to her is so profound that I would like to perpetuate her actual meanings as well.
I was going to ask you what you think defines her most as an artist. Music, her art.
Oh, it's all part of the same thing. She didn't think of it as separate entities. It's all the same, She wanted it all to be seamless, really.
So let's get to this again. Where can people go to get the updates on the new book and your work? There's a website people can go to.
Yes, it's inyourmindbook.com.
Okay. And that's where they can get the hardcover version of the ebook?
That's at conceptualbooks.com, but you'll be led there. You'll be led there if you go to the website.
Now, the ebook is available on the usual outlets. I think it's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. It's on BookBaby.
Okay. And then
and the good news is no overseas shipping charges. That was killer.
All right. Well, that's great. And we got something to look forward to a year from now. We hope to have you back on and talk about the book on Yoko's music. Thanks so much for coming back on, Madeline. You're one of my earlier guests, so I can't believe I've been doing the show for I think 3 years now. I don't know, time flies. So
keep up the good work.
Yeah, thanks so much again, and all the best with the upcoming book.
Thank you.
That's it. It's in the books.